No.
Good morning.
Oh yeah.
Good morning. My name is Mrs. Sherman. I am the Native American Education Program Coordinator for the school district, kindergarten through 5th grade. And it's always nice to have teachers come and ask me, hey, do you know anybody that can come in and speak to my class about any situation or come in and do stuff in your classroom? But when they ask, I go, oh, I got the right person right here. Toby Joseph, and he's got a lot of stories. He's really knowledgeable. So think of those questions. You have a question, you can answer it. Okay?
Okay, I guess I better do something, right? All eyes are over here. Let me grab this chair here. I want to start a little different than I was starting the other spaces. There were some things that I was asked to speak around, creation stories. And for me, creation stories always go back to the big story, you know, whether that's the Big Bang or people going, wait, my teachings say this is how, you know, in 7 days or in whatever space something was created, typically how the world was created. I think that's just as important. And then all of a sudden, how do we create these other things in our lives? Whether that's this moment where you go, just bringing a 4-year-old around, there's this thing that does to create space that, thank you for those that have made this very warm and welcoming space for my 4-year-old granddaughter, that I appreciate that. Because for her, this is the creation for her of, oh, this is what it looks like to come into these spaces and see people that may not look like me. Or anything else that for those 3 kids, my grandkids, are the creation of their story. Then I want to shift for a moment to you thinking about your story. I'm going to tell you a little bit about story and my story, and some different stories that I hope when you come away you go, whoa, story is powerful, and I'm a storyteller. That I'm always curious how many people immediately think they're storytellers. Can I see like a show of hands, like who thinks they're a storyteller? Okay, well, if it's up, I'm not that quick, so if it went up, leave it up just for a second. All right. Okay, now I'm going to ask you to participate, and bear with me, okay? Then I'm going to ask you all to participate, because I think that's a part of storytelling. There's not just me telling the story, there's you listening. That storytelling is how education works. You get an elder, they talk, and your job is to listen. When I have an elder, and I don't care what their age is, if you were to sit in front of me and present and say, I'm teaching you something, you just became my elder. My job is to then be the listener. In a conversation, you share that role. That's storytelling. Conversation is storytelling. And so there's this piece that I'm going to go, can I get everyone to raise their hand? And if you don't raise both hands like this, and I got a bad shoulder, so this really hurts. But I need to see everybody with both hands like this, or I will come over and I swear I'll call you out. Or in. So I'm going to look around the room and go, I need to see both arms. Yeah, both of them. Come on, bro, you got it. Thank you. Then I'm going to look around the room.
Stop.
Come on, you guys are younger than me. All right, so we have 100% participation. Come on, a little higher. Little, just, come on, we can do it. Let's do it together. There you go. But I did see them up at one point, and they're up again. But thank you. And here's the point of that. We would not have moved forward without everybody's participation. We'd have spent the whole hour, if that's what it took, to get you to go, oh, I got to raise both arms. So thank you for doing this thing that I think is listening, following instructions. Then I'll share with you this word that in my community we know. And so the way we know that you're listening isn't by going, can everybody raise their hand? Randomly, people go, habu, habu. It's a way to let the storyteller, and if even one person is listening, it's worth telling the story. Because if you can make a difference in just one person's life, then the breath I'm sharing and the words that I'm putting out with that breath will have been worth it. Just one of you. And then I think that there's this thing going to happen, because it's the power of story, not me, that is, when we're done, you'll recognize you are a storyteller. Because I would say, the last time you got in trouble with your parents or your teacher, what's the first thing you had for them? There we are. That stories are how we communicate. Story is the mechanism that we hang information on to communicate as human beings. So we could talk about where does that go back to? And talk about creation stories that in 7 days God created the world. Or for me, as Toby Joseph, a Tabagawachi Ute and Hickory Apache from the Colorado Four Corners area, specifically Pikes Peak, or what my people called Tava, Sun Mountain, we had our creation story that talked about this day that Creator decided to create human beings. That everything else existed. We did not. And this much longer time it would take to tell this bigger story, that I'm going to tell you pieces of it that I think are super important. And I'll start with you. That in this story, you are the most important piece of the story. Because the story talks about how you came to be as human beings. How Creator went out and realized that the world was not what it could be without us, two-legged human beings. And this aggravated some of the animals like Coyote, who were like, wait, hold up. Creator, I'm Coyote. I'm Trickster. I'm the most beautiful. I'm the best that there has ever been. Because Coyote kind of thought that way of himself. And there was a lot of reasons for Coyote to think that. Coyote was smart. Coyote was beautiful. But Coyote didn't listen so well. And all of a sudden you have to go, well, that's Coyote. And all of the animals are a certain way. Bear. Bear did not have a choice. That Bear was put into a leadership position because that's Bear. Bear is dependable. You could count on Bear. If you give Bear instructions that are, nobody leaves here without getting fed, nobody will leave without getting fed. Bear will make sure to it. Whatever that means. Each of the animals had a way of being that they didn't have choice. And so for the first time, Creator created this two-legged, this human being, and as he put all the parts of them into this bag, collecting from nature the attributes that would be, well, what were all the attributes of Creator put into us. That in this moment, it was said that Coyote saw this and got jealous. And as he got nervous and started to investigate, he opened the bag, and out came humanity. All of humanity pouring. Couldn't stop it at that point. And these humans who were led into the world unprepared, without all of the teachings that they would need. And it said that what this caused is many years later for the animals to have a gathering to decide, what do we do about these human beings who no longer listen? Who, because they don't listen, they don't even share with each other the teachings that they have. Because they no longer listen, they refuse to be in a good way. And so it was in this way that the animals were called together. The little squideta, this little rabbit in their village, this question was put out. Who amongst you will step up to go to this gathering? You see, Squideta's father, he was old, too old to make this long journey. But raised in a way that he was told, eventually, one day, it's going to be on you to step up. And in that moment, in this particular moment, Rabbit stepped up and decided to come on the journey. And Rabbit was taught many things that in community, still to this day, we hold to some of these teachings. As an example, you will see on Canoe Journey that this ring I'm wearing, the ring it signifies Canoe Journey and how we're all interconnected. Each of the beads is a different year that I've been on Canoe Journey. From the very first year in 1989, it was only 10 years after our culture was made legal again. That there was a time to do just what I'm doing right now. I'd have been arrested, your teachers would have been fired, and worse. That I often say it this way, there aren't counselors in the room, so I can't talk about what's worse. It still triggers me, and I guarantee it would trigger you, because when I say worse, it was bad. Really bad. It's why my dad, when he would say to us as a child, Awa Hatsugo, Ayodishne, boarding school took language away, and he thought he was saying to us, as much as something can be, I love you. Turned out what he was saying was, as much as something can be, I'm just kidding. Right? Can you imagine looking someone in the eye that you really love and wanting to express to them, as much as something could be, I love you, and you don't even have the words in your own language anymore? That the best you can mutter is, as much as something could be, I'm just kidding. Yea, years later, when he was in front of an elder and listened and heard that Awa Hatsugo Ayonishne, not Ayodishne, is the correct way to say it. So a little shift, he went from as much as something can be, I love you, or just kidding, to I love you. that I used to listen to him sing that song to my mom. So it became this love song that I folded into my stories. That my grandma used to say, this squidata, this someone blessed with life, we need to know that that's all of us. It's not just this rabbit in this story, that in the longer story you come to know that. I've only been given a short amount of time. That there are storytellers who will tell you an 8-day creation story. Johnny Moses is one of those storytellers that I was lucky to spend almost a decade around him listening, that I still couldn't tell you an 8-day story. That I'm lucky if I could tell you an 8-hour story. And then would go, yeah, that's a long time to talk. Could you fill 8 hours with things that people want to hear? That I go, I always gauge it, because if I see you playing on your phone, if I see you doing other things, and I go, I lost you. I got to get you back. Why I like the word habu. See, all of a sudden you go, oh, that's how we let him know we're engaged. And then there were these other things that were protocols. That like on Canoe Journey, we raise our hands to let people know we're being respectful. Or we put our paddles up when we land on shore to let them know we're coming in a good way. That in this story, Rabbit shows up and shares this song because Rabbit was told that when I come to gatherings, I should introduce, this is who I am, the way that I want. I'm Toby Joseph. I'm Hickory and I'm Apache from the Four Corners area. That if we get to know each other more, you'll go, oh, Indian relocation in the 70s brought Toby here, that my family was forced to come here. We didn't have a choice. That I grew up living in caves. That's not a joke. That my kids make a ton of jokes. This is my dad, he's a caveman. No, like for real. Like knuckle dragon kind even sometimes. But I'm okay with that. I own who I am. And what I would tell you is if you study and you get educated enough, you'll be introduced to names like Walden, Thoreau, Emerson, and Twain. That if you don't know those names, you go to your literature teacher or who here teaches that kind of stuff. So if you don't know who Emerson, Thoreau, Walden, or Twain are, you go to that gentleman right there and go, educate me.
Educate me.
Then I'll educate you, because that's my job in this moment, to say this. All of them were writers, storytellers, who to this point said this: we need a place that is nature. We need a tree, we need a river, we need a field. This is what everybody needs to be happy and healthy. Yay, we got parks. Yay, here we got Point Defiance, that is the second largest park in the country, outside of Central Park. Most people don't know that. That I appreciate those spaces because it is what is left of the indigenous lands of the people that are here. That the Puyallup tribe is the local tribe, but there are hundreds of other tribal people here that I would bet you don't even know what tribal people look like. Because when I look at you, I don't know who the Indians are. They could look like you, they could look like you, they look like me, they look like you. All of a sudden, our people look like everybody because we've lived here together long enough. And then I would argue, absolutely argue, that our people knew about the other people even before Columbus got here. That Columbus got here thinking, hey, look what I found. And we're like, well, I don't know about all that. But we can prove we knew about the others because before Columbus got here, we had the medicine wheel. And the medicine wheel represents, from our culture, a way of recognizing very generically white, black, yellow, and red. That it's these 4 groups of people that I was raised going through the medicine wheel and these teachings. There'll be a day that we will see young people in a room that are representative of all of those people. That will be the day that is why these animals gathered. Because there was a time our people forgot to gather like this. They stopped gathering like this and started looking at differences. Well, we're dog people, so we got to gather over here like that. You're cat people. That Skamayet is how you say dog in the local language. Pish pish is cat, or peeps pish, kitten. And whether a kitten or a cat or a dog, it's those differences that don't separate us, but make us who we are and why we need each other. That these teachings that were shared all the way back as original instructions to our people that said there will be this day that the people come back together. That this longer story talks about that. And then it talks about how. That we can't come back together until you as an individual do this thing that is find your way, find your purpose, so that you can join and take your place in the circle. And I've talked around that and through that and to that now at this point for over 3 hours. And I hope this is the point I've gotten across. In the story, Squideatud, this little rabbit, whose name means someone blessed with life, I'm Squideatud. I'm someone blessed with life. Do you get that you're Squideatud? That you're someone blessed with life? You only get one life. That I talked about this thing that was, how many of you seen the new Puss in Boots? Okay, cool. At this point, I feel bad. The first time I watched it was Friday, and since Friday, I've probably watched it 10 times. And with different crowds of people. And it all comes back to this point, storytelling. That it is a beautiful story about life and death. That when you watch that story, you hear about Lobos, Wolf, who is death. And he's coming for Puss in Boots. And this thing that Puss in Boots did that was like, I wasted 8 lives being Puss in Boots. And Puss in Boots don't even know their real name. They don't even know their own identity because they've spent so much time living, being this thing that wasn't even really who they are, but what others expected them to be. And now that Puss realizes, I got one life left, he's a little afraid of death. And through the whole movie, you got death chasing him until you reach this scene where Puss steps up and recognizes, hold on, I'm not afraid anymore, death. And there was this thing that I was told as an indigenous person, tied to this creation story, that we all have to get to this place where we're willing to step up and go, I'm not afraid anymore. Whether that's a death or anything else. But that's part of being a warrior. Part of what Squideatud was told that led him in this moment where he's outside this longhouse singing his song because he was told that was protocol, right? This way of being. So he shows up and says, I'm going to sing this song. And the other animals rip him apart. And it's a much longer story that, where are we at for time? Okay, because there's a bunch of things I need to filter in that I don't have enough time. Like I said, this one story could easily be a three-hour story. And so what I got to try to do, and why I need you to listen so closely, is to pick the pieces out that I'm not even going to have time to explain the story that I was told we should never do. So what it means to you isn't going to mean what it means to them. What it means to them isn't going to mean to any of you. But there are things that I don't care who you are. If you're listening, you're going to come away going, oh, I'm Squideatud. I'm blessed with life. I matter. And even in those moments like Squideatud that I was afraid, it's okay. Because truly, courageous, brave can only come out of fear. That if you're not afraid, then you do not get to say you were brave. You don't. Now, if you're a level of blankety blank chicken little, and you still perform, that's what courage looks like. That someone asked me, do you get scared coming up here? Every single time. Days I gotta go, did I wear my 3X tall? Because if I lift my arms too high, big fat belly pops out. That's real. Or am I gonna share in a way that people go away going, oh, I heard, I listened, Habu. I took something away that just wasn't words. And if all you take away is that you're Squideatud and that you matter, then I did my job. I hope you take away more and would even say this. How many of you have, and you don't have to respond, but think about it. How many of you have people in your life that remind you that you're sacred, that you matter? Living in a cave in the hills of Colorado, Pikes Peak, I was blessed next to a river, under a tree, near a field, living in a cave or not, to have people that go, hey, little boy, you matter. You can make a difference. That if I said to you, because I said this to everyone else, so how many people think here, and I'll remind people, I was once 427 pounds. That the day I got out of the Army, I was 260, never been a little guy. But I'm probably about 350 now. And I say this as a challenge. How many of you think you could beat me in push-ups? I see, let's see, there's 2.
We all know Haley cannot. You do 10 push-ups max.
Yeah, well, how do you know I can do that? How do you know I can't do 100?
We do 100.
You don't. So, here's what I'm gonna tell you. For the people that raise their hands, I raise my hands to you. That's courage. That's what courage looks like, folks. Even if all you could do is 10 push-ups, you know what? The ability, like Squidea, to step up and go, I'm going to be heard. Yeah, got your attention now, right?
It scared me.
You think that's scary? You should be there at times when I'm at home or in spaces where I need people's attention. And my kids will tell you, no, when Pops needs our attention, we know it because there's a moment where he's like, hey! There's times we're at the fair and literally, I have no clue where my kids are. I'm, hey, hey, hey! And next thing I know, I got 7 of my grandkids coming out of nowhere.
7?
I've got 22.
What?
However, you have to understand, I raised 11 children that are hers, mine, and ours, and 42 more foster kids. So I have a huge group of family that calls me Pops, Dad, Uncle, Fat Dude. Right? And I'm very lucky that along the way, people like Miss Sherman and others that I consider my elders have created opportunity for me to listen and learn. Because what I came away was going, oh, I'm Squidea Ted. I now have a grandson named Squidea Ted. And I love that at 8 years old, he reminds people, it's my name, but it's something that all of us are. And when you know you're blessed with life, and like Puss in Boots, you come to this place to go, I only got one life. That's it. Sorry if I bust a bubble, but literally no one gets out of here alive, folks. And I don't know if that means the end of today, or many, 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 many years from now, when you are much older and much grayer than I. That, yeah, I got some gray under there. But in my mid-50s, I don't have nearly as much gray as my friend who's in their 40s, so I'm okay. That I know people your age with some gray hair. Odd enough, right? No, this guy's 15 now, and I would say he's probably going to be completely white-haired by the time he's 20, but it's a thing in his family. And he's okay with that. At his age, this is how he interprets it. I was told that white hair is a sign of wisdom, and at my young age, look at the wisdom I carry. So it's all about perception. And when you know that you're Squidea Ted, someone blessed with life, all of a sudden you realize that you're sacred, that there is no other you than you. And I want to do this thing again because for me as I move forward, it's really important. So I'm going to do it a little earlier here. So you guys know my name's Toby, right? Somewhere here I got 3 little grandkids. They disappeared, but that's all right. But Nellie Ann is the youngest. Mila is the next oldest.
Where are you?
And then Lance, who's the older boy. They are the oldest, or they're the 3 kids I'm raising now that I just got guardianship of. So they'll be with me till they're 18. Didn't expect to be parenting kind of at this old age or grandparenting so directly. But what I love about it is they're starting to own who they are. They're starting to figure out, I'm Squidea Ted, I'm sacred. And every day I try to do my best to remind them, you matter. That if you don't have anyone at home, and if no one's ever said it to you, then I am so happy to be the person to go, you matter. And I don't want you to think that I'm doing this thing that is to the whole group like, yeah, I disappeared in that group. You weren't really talking to me. So we're going to do this thing that when you go, hey, Lance, say hey. So that's Lance. So I'm going to point at you, and you have an opportunity that I want to share with you this thing. It's called having a longhouse voice. So if I said, my name is Toby, can you hear what I'm saying right now?
No.
Right, because you're close. However, I guarantee that if I speak and if I stand, press on the diaphragm, all of a sudden there's this place that I can speak from that they can hear me down in the other cubicle area, I promise. That is where I sing from. That is this place that when I sing my dad's love song, Awa Hatsugo Ayo Nishite, it's from that place that I sing. That before I sing that song, I want to do this thing and go, can you guys tell me your name? So I'm going to start here, and then we'll move around. When I point to you, and if you don't feel comfortable, because this isn't about making you uncomfortable. I respect where you are right now. That does not mean you need to be somewhere where you go, my name is Toby.
Whoa.
No one's going to leave here not knowing my name. You see the impact that has? But if I just say, my name's Toby, have a good day. What do you think you're going to carry away knowing about me?
Your name's Toby. That you like to whisper. Your name's Toby.
And that's okay too, right? So no judgment. So we're going to go around. Here, let's start here. Okay?
My name's Beto.
There we go. And if you want, just put out your first name. John, Mary, George. Runs with the wind. Whatever your name
Runs
is.
with the wind.
Mark.
Cruz. Dante.
Blaze.
Hope. Halen.
Alex.
Jordan.
Oh, me?
Oh, Valencia.
Brooke.
Emma. Blevins. Olivia. Scarlett.
Caillou.
Dante sounded like Batman.
And only because I got just a little bit of a hearing today. It's in me. I'll come around this way.
Oh. Yo, is he doing a backflip?
Last but not least. Right on. So the reason I do that is now I've heard your name. We've had an opportunity, even as limited as it is, to have an authentic connection.
Oh.
That my dad used to say, if you're going to sing these songs, at a minimum, you need that. So I'm singing this to you, not to the group. And when my dad sang Awa Hatsugo Ayo Nishne from that place, it was from that place that is because I'm recognizing that you are sacred, that you matter. And like Squideatud in the story, who showed up in that good way, these things should be shared and sung at gatherings. So I'm going to do that now. Yawa Hatsigo Hayo Nishne Hayo Nishne Hayo Nishne Hayo Nishne Yawa Hatsigo Hayo Nishne Hayo Nishne Hayo Nishne Hayo Nishne. And when my dad was in extra trouble with my mom, oh man, he'd really Yawa Hatsigo Hayo Nishne Hayo Nishne Hayo Nishne. And because of boarding school, he used to sing it wrong. He'd always add at the end with a little extra emphasis, especially when he was in trouble. Very, very much, I love you, I love you. But thank you for being brave, because that is awkward. But the same love that I'm expressing here, I'm expressing to all of you. So let's be clear about that, okay? And then love can feel awkward. Being authentic can feel uncomfortable. That it's those places of fear that stop people from raising their hand and going, yeah, no, I'll whoop your fat butt. I'll take the challenge. Because if I said to you, and push-ups is one area to step up, hey, anybody here want to help me change the world? Right on, both hands go up. Anyone want to build a vibrant community where you get to be your authentic self and show up without fear of being judged or ridiculed or made fun of? Because I'm going to tell you what, that's the world I want to live in. That's the world that I wake up every day trying to go, how do I create this world that goes back to this story? How do we be kind, loving, radiant, truthful, and just beings? Because those are the things that Creator was putting into that medicine bag, pulling out of nature for us to become whole again. Can I get a time check?
11:18.
About 10 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Because that really brings me back to this place that is you. That, like, literally. Because some of yous, and I need to make sure I stand up because I want to make sure everybody, and I'm going to project because I want to make sure everybody hears when I say you're sacred and matter. This other song I want to share with you came from a group of young kids your age. That they decided, hold up, we appreciate culture. Thank you that we have these giants of culture to stand on your shoulders and sing all these songs, but we want our own song. And so Oscar and Tecumseh Saluskin, two Yakima and Puyallup boys, came to elders and said, we want our own warrior song. We want a warrior song for the young people. And it was gifted to community that some songs you're not allowed to sing because they belong to somebody. This is a community song that has been recorded by the school there's places you can find access to it that I give you, because in that moment, like Rabbit, Squidantad, someone blessed with life, there was a moment where he was literally ripped apart, arms, legs, head. Yeah, in the most violent way. And I promise you, if you haven't felt the weight of puberty yet, yeah, no one likes talking about acne or all the other things that come with it. But also this thing that I think is a beautiful thing that comes with it, or can come with it, a sense of independence. This sense of going, yeah, you know what, I get to be me. I'm not my mom and dad, even though a part of me is. I'm not my grandma and grandpa or my aunts and uncles. I'm me. And this recognition that there is no other you, that was the point of this warrior song, that when life gets hard, like literally, when you don't have a shoulder to lean on, what do you do? And all of a sudden, this song that was gifted to community, that I now gift to you. And so the song goes like this. Whoa-ho-yo, 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 hi-yo, whoa-ho-yo, hi-yo, whoa-ho-yo, whoa-ho-yo, Thank you much. So I was told when I was a kid, that if you're going to drum, you need to sing at least as loud as you're drumming. So hopefully, because I know I drum loud, I sang well enough that my grandma will be happy. No offense, not that I care if you're happy or not, but I have to cross over and answer to her. I believe that. And one day I think you'll have to be account, whether it's at the end of the day or at the end of your life, for the life that you've lived. And so it's in that way that my grandma and elders have said that's why we have songs like the love song, to remind us of those things that are important and worth waking up for. Songs like the warrior song to remind us that in those moments when it's the hardest, we feel ripped apart, we got this. And we got each other. That I pause for a minute because there's a thing that I don't always know how to reflect, and I'll still try. That when I share with you my dad's love song, you have to know he didn't know how to say that because up until 1978, it was literally illegal. Yea, when an elder taught him how to say it right. As young people, you live in a time that I was raised to believe is about fulfillment, not prophecy. And so in that way, how do you fulfill this thing that is being who you are? Back there on one of the signs it talks about living your best life. Over here was something about what's the best part of me. All I got was your name this morning. And there's this thing that I would love to do that would be swap roles, because I was told that as an elder or a storyteller, my job is to do this and yours is to listen. You have absolutely done your job today. That there has been a level of engagement, not just from this group of young people, but from every group of young people that speaks to the environment and the culture that is this school. Because I've gone to some schools where I'm telling you what, every 5 minutes there has to be this redirect to go, okay, Habu, are you hearing me? Are you listening? Yeah. This thing that is not engagement, but this level of let's fight about it. Let me actually argue with you and create, okay, I can do that too. Because my hope is out of the clash of opinions, we'll find the gem of truth. That in the longer story, you hear that lesson told. It is the point of listening, even when it's difficult, that you do so well. And so I want to close with what I think is this thing that all these stories, they have the why. And there's a story that I haven't shared with any other groups that I like, and it's a quick story, so I'll share it with you. So we got under 5 minutes, like 3 minutes? Good, okay. Okay, so the story starts with this little chipmunk. And you understand, Chipmunk, oh, Chipmunk is loud and full of herself. I mean, like, if people go, who's the best singer? Chipmunk. Me. Who's the fastest runner? Chipmunk. Me. Even if she's not. But put the challenge out, Chipmunk will step up. And so one night, Chipmunk's walking along and sees Bear. And Bear is Bear. Bear is very dedicated to the community and being of service and rarely asks anything for themselves. But you see, Bear does like to sleep. And on this particular evening, it was a particularly long day, and Bear thought out loud, I'm going to sing this song in hopes that my medicine is strong enough that the sun will not rise and it'll be dark forever and I can just sleep. And then I can rest. Well, Chipmunk didn't like this idea at all because at night, that's when the owls came out and it wasn't safe for Chipmunk at night. Chipmunk would prefer it was daytime all the time, or at least half the time anyway. And so it was in this way that Chipmunk immediately ran up and felt challenged and, Bear, you sing your song, but I'm going to tell you, if you do, even if you sing your song all night long, I will sing my song one time. And my song is so powerful that I'll only need sing it the one time and the sun will come up. Well, this infuriated Bear. How dare this noisy little Chipmunk try to tell Bear what would be? And so immediately, Bear started to sing his song. That Bear has a song. And I was shared this Bear song by Zelma McLeod from the Nisqually community at Frank's Landing. And this is that song that Bear sang. And they say that Bear sang this all through the night. And as Bear sang and sang and sang, the night went through. And periodically Bear would stop and look at Chipmunk. Chipmunk, who do you think you are? And would then just sing even louder. That by morning, poor Bear and his voice, and had all but lost his voice. But it was in that moment where they say it is the darkest before dawn. And it was in this moment that Bear felt the need to sing his song the strongest. And so this is what you heard from Bear. And with everything that was Bear put into this song all of the pleading and love that they could muster to Creator for the sun not to rise. And in that moment, looked to little Chipmunk, who knew this was the time to sing her song, and immediately stepped up. Bear. Oh, I so appreciate you, Bear. And that you sang all night long and put everything that you had into that. It's truly beautiful. But let me show you how it's done. And so little Chipmunk got up and sang Creator's creation song. And it was with that drum beat that you saw the first rays of light come up over the hills. At first, it was just little peaks of yellow and red and orange, but eventually the whole sky glowed. And as Chipmunk finished that first song, the sun was fully risen. And it was in this way that Chipmunk reminded Bear, I told you last night, didn't I, that I would sing my song only the one time and the sun would rise again. That this is proof of my power, Bear, that you should not have doubted me to begin with. And it was in this way that Bear started to become angry. Because it wasn't just Chipmunk, telling the truth. Chipmunk started to tease and be like, see, Bear, I told you you couldn't do it anyway. Why didn't you know better? How dare you even try? And so it was in this way that out of nowhere, Bear, without warning, and put that mighty paw back down on the back of little Chipmunk's neck. And it was in this moment that Chipmunk became terrified. What would you do if a big 600-pound bear slammed you to the ground and had their paw with their claws dug into your head? Well, Chipmunk did the only thing that Chipmunk could do. Please don't hurt me, Bear. I'm sorry. And so it was in this way that Bear had compassion, lifted his hand, and Chipmunk escaped, leaving 3 stripes down her back. That is another proof of the story and the truth. Thank you much.